Without further ado, let's get started. We'll go over some of the introductions, and I can let you guys know who's driving the ship this morning. So we've got Larry Cramp, as always. He's the product line manager for Control and Attach. We've got Tom McKeon. He's the director of software for NICE North America. A lot of what you're seeing here in the 8.9 rollout is largely in part to what Tom and his team have been working on. And my name is Jeff Kaplinski. So I'm the director of the RTSs, the technical team that's stationed throughout the United States for field engineering. So without further ado, Larry, let's get rolling.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to start off by talking about some software features, and we showed this at CDF for those of you who are there. For those of you who weren't, the first thing we're going to talk about is the NICE voice assistant. So we decided a while ago to have our own embedded native voice assistant, and the reason we did this is because if you've ever done voice automation, voice control with Alexa or any of the other ones that we handle, there's a lot that you have to do to get it set up. Event map the triggers and that sort of thing. So we just wanted to make something that was easier and native and more intuitive for the control platform. So that's what we did. This is also the first software that has a recurring license offering. So there's a 1 year that is a yearly license. So that's the first time we've done that. There's also a lifetime license as well. So if we get into a couple of the things that this voice assistant does, is it's location aware. And this is really cool because it works with the two devices that we have currently have microphones, and that's the ITP touchscreen as well as the HR40. Now the ITP has a location. So if you have an ITP in the kitchen, for instance, and you say turn the lights on, it knows that you're turning lights on in the kitchen. If you have an HR40, it'll use the zone that's on to know where your location is in, the active zone. So being location aware, I think, is something that's really clever and neat. So you don't have to say the location, but if you do, you can still trigger lights that are in different locations that are different than where the location of the microphone is. Follow-up commands. So if you're talking to it already and you're saying turn on the lights, you could just then say now set them to 50%, for example, or now play some music or something like that. So the follow-up command. The global action requests are things that you can do to talk about or trigger things that are beyond that area and location. Favorites. You can't do voice without triggering some kind of favorites in your media, so that's how we're doing it. So if you have any favorite that you have in media, whether it's a channel favorite or a station, if it's a streaming device, you can trigger that favorite by saying it. We also support complex commands, so things like turn on the lights and play Rolling Stones, for instance. Those kinds of things, we group them together so you can talk to it and have these actions derived just like you normally would. So just things that we're doing with our voice assistant that doesn't require you, the dealer, or the end user to know what they want to do. They just it's just part of the program, which makes this quicker to roll out and easy to use. So one thing that we also did is the custom voice triggers. So there's always going to be things that are outside of the bounds of the program or the configuration that the dealers and end users will want, like you see here, like good night or sleep well. There's nothing called that in the system, but you can create these trigger phrases that will do certain things. So like everybody who knows Jeff Kaplinski will use Bear 30 and that will do something. So these custom voice trigger phrases we do support with our voice assistant as well. And the one big thing, the thing that I would use, I think many of us will do, is use timers with your other voice assistant platforms, right? So start a timer for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever that time is for whatever reason. Cooking is what I use them for a lot. But it did seem like we wanted to add that too, because we don't want to use one voice platform for everything else, but not for timers, just something as common as that. So we added up to 4 timers that can be set, which is nice. And what it'll do is it'll actually tell you, and it'll ping your mobile device that the timer is up, which is cool. There's also a couple random things that we do, like asking what the time is, or the weather for the day, weather for a certain day or week. So that stuff is also we do that as well. So yeah, this voice assistant is coming soon. So let's open it up for questions on the voice assistant.
Before if I can interject, Larry, before we get to the questions, guys, it's important to know that this isn't a bolt-on, voice software system, right? We've built this from the ground up, and the cool thing about this is, as you're going through the configurator, as you're programming your system, you're defining locations. You guys remember, about a year ago, we started using locations. Specifically, the first subsystem we used was in lighting, right? Where you'd import all your lighting loads and you drop them in the specific location as you built that. So the convenient thing about this voice assistant is there's really no additional programming unless you want to put in some custom hooks, like Larry was talking about. As you go through and you're configuring the system, assigning things into locations and building the programming profile, it's automatically assigning these voice hooks for you, right? So it's going to be a natural speech once the system is programmed. And then in the last webinar, we had a lot of questions on, if people wanted to do the old way, right? If you guys remember, we had to do custom text-to-speech commands and trigger words, and then we could define them through an event mapper. You can still do that. You can still, define whatever you want as a trigger, and then from there you can link that as the executable for whatever the actions you want to be fired off from that through the event map architecture. Tom, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I'm just going to go through some of the questions. So is the TP mic always on, or do you just have to press a button? So on the ITP, there's a wake word phrase that you'll use. That's one of the things we're still finalizing. That's why this is coming soon. That'll wake the touch panel up, and it'll start listening immediately. On the HR40, there's the mic button, so you'll just press that button and ask the question or ask the request there. So there's a couple of drivers we'll be talking about. Comcast, the Xfinity driver, already has voice. We're rolling out Apple TV with Siri. But to be able to, you'll be able to use those sources to be able to talk to, an example of Apple TV, Siri. If you press and hold, if you press and release, you'll be able to talk to our voice assistant. So we've made accommodations to be able to support other voice solutions at the same time. But that's how you invoke voice on ITP and HR40.
Yeah. How does it work for TV favorites, location-based? So yes, it is, location-based based on the zone name, right? So if I wanted to, let's take a Roku. I've got a Roku video distribution. My family room, I want to go to Netflix. I can say, turn on Roku, go to Netflix, right? So it is in the great room, but it also knows by where the interface that you're speaking. Remember, we always have default zones, right? We have default zones for all interfaces, HR40s, all the way back to the HR200s or HR2s, right? So, and same thing with the touch panels. We're defining the location or the zone that they reside in. So that's going to be the default zone. Also for the shortcuts on the UI, as well as for the voice commands.
Yeah, you can think just on just all sources, everything you ask, you can pretty much look at a touch panel or an interface and see what permissions are enabled. If your touch panel is able to access a TV favorite, and you invoke that TV favorite without specifying another location, it'll just know what to do. So it's pretty much whatever the interface you're interacting with, whatever it can access, you can access it via voice. And in some cases, you don't want that. In case of your kid's room where maybe you lock out the cameras, you don't want them to be able to access the cameras via voice. So we adhere to the policies of the touch panel, which you guys set up and when you're configuring these things with voice as well. So if voice can access it via the interface you're talking to, then it can do the job. Darren asked, what's the wake word? That's what we're finalizing. So that's one of the things that why we're holding this off. This has been in beta for a number of months. Got a lot of great feedback, a lot of strong requests and things that we've turned into the product. So, but we're just finalizing the wake word / name of the service here.
Another
How
one.
secure is the voice system?
It is secure. Everything's encrypted. The end user has the ability to control whether their phrases are captured as utterances and stuffed into configurator. So the end user on every interface will be able to turn off logging, as an example. As dealers, installers, you'll probably take a look at these logs and figure out maybe there's a request that should be taken care of natively that you could feedback to us. Or in some cases, it may give you an idea for creating that custom trigger phrase, so you can create an event map off of maybe a common request. So, but that, again, the control for that is all in the end user's hands. We will have an update to our privacy policy that covers voice, talks about how we manage data and things of that nature. So that'll all be covered there.
Also got another question, Garrett, will dealers be able to get a free or discounted voice assistant license to help them get more familiar with nice voice or help to sell to the end user? So yes, we've thought about that, as far as, dealer demo. That's going to be on the sales team, Costello and company to decide. There is something in the works as a dealer incentive as far as demo on the licensing. But the other thing to note is we also have, if you're deploying a system and you have a client that's on the fence, free 60-day trial on voice, right? So it's something that you can deploy a system, enable this free 60-day license, see if it's for the end user, see how the end user likes it. At the end of that 60 days, obviously that's going to shut off, and then that conversation can be had about different licensing options.
It is not for free, and again, for our customers, the goal is to make it as seamless as possible for them, but also make it easy for you guys to configure and support. And we believe we've achieved that with this, even the first round. So one of the other questions was about addressing lighting. While you probably won't need to do anything particularly special when you're configuring these systems, it probably will change the way you name items like lighting. In the example of maybe Alexa, you'd have to be explicit about the name of the light or the type of light. So when you can invoke it by name. So we've added some classifications behind the scenes. So in the case of your ceiling cans, you could categorize them as ceiling, and then it'll hear cans, it'll hear recessed, any kind of variant on that. It'll understand and know those are the kind of lights you're talking about. So if you're in a room, you say turn on the cans, it knows what room you're in, and it knows that cans means ceiling lights, and you've categorized those lights as ceiling. So we've done a fair bit of work on the classification to make it as natural as possible. So when you make a request, you can be explicit about the room or the location if you like, but we'll know the light type that you're talking about, so you don't have to name all your ceiling lights or recessed lights, as an example. So with this lighting, with this voice, you'll most likely start to you'll most likely start changing the way you name some of these loads and sources, just based on with the addition of location, which we are using, you'll make it a lot easier for you to set these systems up.
What if there's no HR40 or touchscreen in a room? How can a client send commands? Well, obviously we need an interface that's, audio enabled or mic enabled to do that. There is, as this develops, we are looking at some other options just to, other microphone options in the mix as this voice rolls out and evolves over the years. Will dealers have the ability to set up phrases for clients? Yes. The old way, we can still do text-to-speech phrases. that are outside of, our voice architecture. So you still have the ability to do that. We're paying a license fee for voice. Is this going to eventually lead to NICE Alon to do annual subscription for the currently free app? So I can tell you that there's nothing in the plans now to do that. As you guys know, the market is kind of all shifting towards that monthly RMR options with that. But I can tell you that as it stands now, there's nothing on the horizon for us to move to that model. Will Alexa still work? Yes, so you can do both. And now that I just triggered that, you're probably going to hear my touch panel talk in the background. You'll be able to do multiple voice services. And I don't know if Tom talked, even on the HR40, we can classify different services based on the action of the button. If it's a press of the voice button, it's one service. If it's a press and hold, it's another service. So we'll have the option to do that. And Tom, you want to answer, will you have the ability to use the mobile app for voice in the future?
Yeah, so for now it's ITP and HR40 only. We're not going to go down the mobile route at this point, but as you'll see, and what Larry touched on, it is things like timers. There are things that you can only do via voice. Our goal is to make things easier for you to do, things that you could do on a touch panel you would do via voice, but increasingly you'll start to be able to do things with voice that would be tough to do on a touch panel, or features that are not exposed. So as we get further down that path, we can look again at exposing voice via mobile app. We're also looking, and there's another question about this earlier, about a microphone option, so you can put that in a room versus an ITP. So those are things that we're considering down the road, but at launch, ITP HR40 is the way to go. There's also one question about if the network goes down. So you do require internet connectivity for this to work. It's on the 100s, 300 controllers, the ITPs, the ITP2s, and then the forthcoming 150 and 350 controllers. So those are the requirements, and of course running 8.9.
All right. Well, the next section is another big one, and it's Personalization 3.0. So over the years, we have added personalization, and we've kept iterating on this. We did the fly out, which was Personalization 2.0. It had personal favorites. But what people have always asked for, I mean, even since I was a dealer, which is, showing my age, is to be able to go up to a touch panel and have the whole experience changed based on who is interacting with it. So what we've done in 8.9 is enabled a couple different ways that we can get this to happen. The ITPs have facial recognition, and we could do that. We also use the BLE that's from your mobile device. And then what we do is once that the panel recognizes via one of these methods, the entire interface will change. So it could be your personal settings. So for instance, my kid only has access to certain cameras, not all of them, and certainly not the climate and things like that. So the default screen won't have any of that stuff. And as the people interact with it, it'll change and allow permissions based on who the person is. And again, the three different ways we do that is with the face, with BLE from your mobile device, and then with a pin. So those are the three ways. And then once as you can see, once that it recognizes and identifies the user, the panel will change completely. Even the theme can change based on the person that's using it. So this is Personalization 3.0. And like I said, how does it know what you want? Well, we have taken the mobile device, because that's inherently personal, and we've made that your device. So basically, in the settings where you have the users, the profiles, you assign a mobile device to that person. So that is the permissions that person or user will get, and that's what will follow them around. So now there's this construct of a profile device under users, so you can tie that to the person. Because mobile devices are a bigger, deeper integration with how this all works, we want to make it easier to onboard mobile devices as well. So to do that, we've added a QR code for adding mobile devices. And This is an easy way for end users to add a new mobile device to a system, whether they're adding the, guest phones or their kids' phones, or even if they get a new phone, they could just scan the code and onboard it. Of course, we have the ability to move this to the protected settings. So it could be in the regular settings or the protected settings, depending on how you, the dealer, wants to be involved with this or not. Some do, some don't. So we have the option there for you guys. Now, because of this, and the people update their mobile devices, one of the things that happens is as you do this, previously before 8.9, you'd have to change all the event maps because we were sending notifications and push notifications to specific devices. But now in 8.9, we send them to specific users, and then we know the attached device to the user. So when a user gets a new phone, you don't have to go in and change all the event maps around. So it is just following the person, not the device. The device, by generically, will follow the person because of it's tied to their profile, right? So that's a big help, I think, to dealers. We added a speech greeting, so it will tell you if it right when it recognizes you. So and it'll say the time, like good morning, and things like that. And as it says Larry, so I know that it recognized me, and then of course I know that because my theme is changing and all that stuff. But this is just a nice little thing that you can or cannot do, whatever you want. Next is we've gotten this request for a long time, and that's to simplify and automate the disarming of security systems. And we wouldn't do it without MFA, multi-factor authentication. Now, because we're enabling BLE in the phone, in the mobile app, right? And now we have the phone tied to the user, and we have geofencing, which you'll see in the next slide. That creates a multi-factor for us to be able to offer Bluetooth disarming of the panels through our system. So to do this, it has to be enabled, and you have to actually click on the touch screen that you want and the user. And then if you leave, and we know by geofence, if you leave and come back and walk within a couple feet of the panel, it will disarm the security system if it's set to do that. Again, this was a high request of ours over the years, but we weren't going to do it without some MFA option. So we finally got that ability here.
Hey, Larry, before we move on, I'm going to interrupt you again. I really want to hit home this 3.0 with as far as users and loading their personalized settings on a touch panel. Guys, if you know back, I don't know, it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, we started out with, we called it Personalization 2.0. It was just the flyout, right? Touch panel would recognize who it was there, either based on facial rec or PIN code, and then you'd load your specific flyouts on the side. But, we were always asking dealers, like, I still have to go and program, each touch panel. If I got a touch panel in, say, a basement or common area, multiple family members would be accessing it. They'd want to lock out cameras, so not have, when the teenage kid's down there with his friends doing whatever, not have access to the cameras. It's important to know that now, we've taken this to the next step further where, every interface is not going to be global on settings, right? The interface is going to change, and it's going to react to who it recognizes as using it. So dad walks up to a touch panel, can load, complete full access, security system, cameras, everything, right? Little Jimmy walks up to it, and maybe you only can turn the TV on and off, or the lights on and off. This is a huge feature. You take it one step further. Think about rental properties, right? You can issue whoever's coming to rent there a 4-digit code where they come up to a touch panel, type in their 4-digit code, and have limited access to what they can see, whereas the homeowner or the rental unit owner comes in, has full access. This is a huge feature, and it's been in the works for a while. I just didn't want this to be. Wanted to hit it home a little bit more there, Larry. So
as you usually do, Jeff. Thank you.
Carry on.
So along with this personalization, like we said in the last slide about this BLE disarming, we have native geofencing now. And the way we did this is we have basically two regions. We have home, which is designed to be the the closest, the shorter radius around the location, which is 50 meters, intended for those boundaries, and you can do actions based upon everybody there, everybody not there, things like that. And then there's the region, which is still the home's longitude and latitude, but could be a wider region. So you could have two different actions based upon the region from the home. Now we're going to get into a couple things that we added along with Personalization 3.0. One is the an owner class, right? User class. So that's another drop down by device, and you can see what the classes are. So a guest would have no access to settings. So that the gear wheel, they just want to have access to that. The next one is standard, which is basically the permissions that you're used to today. So everything's the same. They have settings, and then there's advanced settings. If they have the passcode, they can get into it. And then there's admin. This is elevated permission. So what the admin can do is they could get into the advanced settings without needing to enter their passcode. They can also elevate other users to the class of admin, right? So if they're adding a new user in, an admin can add another admin, right? And they can also assign the mobile devices to the classes of users that are added. Now, of course, with this Personalization 3.0, what we did is we depreciated the old setting of the touchscreen security. So you'd have to turn it on, and then it'd be just a PIN code that you would show up. We did this because it works differently now. So you can now just select the option of screen lock, and they'll have to enter a PIN code anyways. It's just in a different location. So we always want to make sure we tell you when things are changing in this kind of a way. So that is that. Now, Personalization 3.0, one of the things about it is we need to get the BLE out of the app or the mobile device, and then we also need to use the geofence, right? So to do that, you have to make sure, and this will be an option when you check when you update the apps, that the location is set to always. So I just want to make sure we point that out. So, and again, with 8.9, there's all new apps like there are every release. So mobile apps are all going to be updated now. So make sure that when you update systems, you update the apps as well. Okay, now we're going to jump into the question segment of Personalization 3.0.
Yeah, and there were a few of them. I'll go ahead and curate them for you boys there. So a lot of questions on how does it handle if it's got multiple BLE endpoints in close proximity to a touch panel. And then the flip side of that is what happens if there's two touch panels in close proximity to one BLE node.
So you have a couple of options per touch panel. One is, what manner of authentication will you accept? With face or BLE, or those are the options, or both. So you can kind of fine tune it as needed. The other options you have is when, in the case of BLE, when does the panel look for the BLE beacon, or when does it transmit it? It could be when the screen wakes up or on the login screen. So if you have two users in the same room and the panel wakes up, either on login or the panel wakes up and that's when it triggers, it'll look for the beacon that's closest and it'll automatically log in that scenario. So I think it's generally looks within 2 meters up to 6 meters is the general how far we've tested and what logically makes sense. If you're probably not going to want to log into a panel if you're across the room. So it's generally right in front of you when you do, but you could, wake the panel up via voice, log you in, and be able to interact with it that way as well.
All right. Another one that came through was BLE disarming only with 2 gig. So no, that's not just to do with our 2 gig. That's going to be adhered to the security subsystems as a whole there. So that's not something that we're just keeping in-house with our in-house brand. Tom, Larry, can different sources be available for the same zone based on user? Surprised we didn't get more of a applaud feedback for the mobile device enrollment. You know how many calls I've gotten from the dealer base. You know, you guys only, your clients are getting a new phone like every 3 months, right? Especially every time Apple comes out with the new latest and greatest. A lot of times you're doing the phone swaps. Another thing just to hit home real quick, you know, now that the phone is assigned to a user, if you've got all of these event maps keyed, you know, push notifications, everything, they can go and enroll it, scan the QR code. As long as that new device is tagged to that user, there's nothing else you guys need to do as integrators. So this is a huge, I know it's been a pain in the ass for a lot of you guys with, you know, enrolling new device and device security. Another thing I just wanted to hit home there.
That was one of my favorite features, Jeff.
Yeah. So there's no more questions on this section. Again, guys, you know, as we move on, even if it's not questions pertaining to the current section we're talking about, go ahead and list them in the chat, and we'll get them answered. Go ahead, Larry.
All right. Well, the next part of this is the user experience. So with 8.9, we also refined the UI. And for those of you who are at CEDIA, you saw it. You guys might have seen some images, but now we're going to go over it a little in depth. So there's basically 3 new themes. The live theme, which is Tiles Live, the new default theme, which is Mosaic, and then Slate. So those are the 3 new themes, and they're all tile based. So let's take a look in. I wanted to cover a couple of the things about this. So one thing is this quick access area. It's in the bottom left there. What we're doing with the tiles themes is we're still subsystem based like we've always been, but what we're doing is tying in quick access to be semi-room based for as far as the quick access features go. So down there you have media, lights, and climate, and that is, if you press those, that's the room that this touch panel is in. Now those are only there for ITPs, not mobile devices. But if your ITP is in the kitchen, if you hit security, climate, you'll have the generic interface that you normally would for all areas. But if you hit the media button, that's going to be the kitchen media button or the kitchen lights instead of going to lights and all that stuff. So it's just a quicker way to populate. It's kind of blending the room based and the subsystem based together. Next is lighting. So a couple updates we did here. We're basically the same, but we moved a couple things. So the favorites are over there on the right side of the screen. The power button is now, instead of a light bulb, it's a power icon instead. Still, the press and hold for what turns on and off for the whole area is still there. But the other thing is the scheduler is in the upper right now. It's not a line item. So note that. And next on lighting, since we updated a few things here, we updated the scheduler. Now, I know we just updated the scheduler not too long ago, but we cleaned it up and made it more simple for end users to use, as you can see, but a lot cleaner. Now, the other thing we did is we made the periods nameable. I know that was a big request, so we got that done. So right here, you can see I named the periods, weekday mornings, you can see, and it'll show underneath the time of the day that is programmed to do. So I thought that was a pretty good way to handle this. And along with that, we also updated slightly the way we handle scene creation. So we just did that for consistency's sake. Okay, next is climate. You can see the climate thermostats are tile based as well. So as you can see right here, you can see all the thermostats, but you also have abilities to give them a couple changes right off the bat. And if you wanted to dive into the thermostat, you just click it and you'll get the standard screen that you know. And in climate, one of the things we added was the ability to copy and paste schedulers. Now, some of these systems I've seen have 30 plus thermostats. And if you want to change the time from, 6:30 to 7 o'clock, you'd have to change that 30 times in the same the mode, so home and away and however many the system modes that you have. You'd have to do that. And even that small change it could be a lot to sync up across 30 some odd thermostats. So copy paste, even with my 5 thermostats, I'm happy to see this one. Next is security. You can see we just changed a couple things icon related, but the garage door slider did change. It's now positional, so it shows if it's open or closed based upon where that node indicator is, left or the right. So different way to show the position of the door. Still says it too, but that's how we made these updates for security. And under utilities, we added a solar day shot. Basically, it shows what's actually happening in your solar system for the drivers that we have available, but it also shows your aggregate of how much solar you've created today and how much your home is used, to give you a highlight of how you're performing versus your solar and energy usage. And this, the left grid is cool because it'll show you what's going on at that moment in time. Are you creating more solar than you need? Are you running off a battery? Are you using grid power? It's I think this is an easy way to denote those who use solar. We also made a couple updates to irrigation. I think it's cleaner, easier to use, right? Just by the group, you hit run program and hit the group, and you're good. But we've also added below there a way to see the actual irrigation zones that are running at that time. So that's basically done using a Google Map image, and then you can actually draw the different zones for your irrigation. So what's better than reading it is to see it. So I can see at that moment in time which irrigation group is running. Which brings us to the new floor plan experience. So we had done something like this years ago, but you had to draw the lines. It was tough to do. Wasn't really that great. But what we did is we used the LiDAR technology inside of iOS to scan the rooms. Now, it does require an iOS phone that has LiDAR technology. I think the Pro models, or at least they were. And you use your phone to scan the room. And it'll take, maybe, it depends on the size of the house, but 10, 15 minutes. And you can see the image of how it looks there. It'll pick up everything: windows, doors, furniture. And then what you get when you're done is an image like this. And again, we had this at CEDIA for those who were there. But that's a real image of someone who scanned their house. And then once you have that house scan, you could do things like you can see in the middle there's an ITP there, and that might be neat to know where that's located, but also lights. So you can drop lights in where they go, and you can visually see what's going on inside a home. Cameras, which are cool. So you could drop a camera in where they are, and when there's a person or vehicle detected, if there are cameras, then it'll actually show the image at that moment in time. Which is cool, and security zones, which we'll get to. Now, it's important to know that this also supports UIX. So what's better than seeing it on a small screen is seeing it on your big screen, right? And a lot of people will just keep this up, or may keep this up, so they can see what's going on in the house, or check on the house on their TV. One thing we did was add the mobile device locator, and basically that's, again, part of Personalization 3.0, because we're using the BLE from your mobile device to a touch panel. But now you can see here that my mobile device was in range of that touch panel, and it'll tell you that. And when you have some of these houses that are huge, as we've probably all seen, that will be a help to see where these mobile devices are in a home relative to, again, an ITP panel. And what we did is we since we were able to do this and add security sensors and doors and stuff, we added this to be able to link to your security partition. So for instance here, what's better than knowing your sliding door is open is seeing your sliding doors open, or any faulted zone, or a motion detector, right? So that will show you, if it's set up, what is going on inside the home. And I think a visual is so much better. That's where we're going with things. All right, so that is the user experience update. So let's pause and take some questions.
Yeah, before we hit the questions, the talk about the LiDAR thing. So that's something that when we were at CEDIA, I had my phone open. I was scanning the booth, doing demos of that constantly. this scanning is all done through the Nice app, right? So we're not using a third-party LiDAR app to do that. It's embedded now in the Nice iOS app. So it's simple as starting the scan, naming the room, walking the house, and then complete, and then it sucks it right in. And it's also important, Larry talked about, this isn't just for, visual as far as status. Like you depict and you place light nodes within that scan. You touch that light load and it's hooked to the lights will turn on, right? So it's a two-way interactive option now that we're giving, just another control integration option for your end users. Let's get to questions. Tom, we were going to kick it to you.
Yeah. So one of the questions from the last one was the quick access, which Larry covered. That's only available on the ITP because that's where you specify where you are. So that's where quick access is. We need to know what room you're in, and right now that's on ITP only. Let's see here. The preferred LiDAR app, I think Jeff just covered it. It is as part of the Nice viewer for iOS. We're using some Apple technology behind the scenes. So you need an iPhone that is LiDAR equipped. Most of the newer phones are LiDAR equipped. And when you're all ready, set, and go in your viewer, when you hit the edit button for a location, you'll see a new icon on the bottom left corner, or 3D icon, and that takes you into the LiDAR capturing experience. So you can capture an entire floor really quickly, or you can do one room at a time, and then when you're done, you say done, and it'll stitch it all together and send it to the controller. So the LiDAR thing is pretty cool. It not only captures your walls, doors, windows to scale, which is important, but it also captures major appliances, flat screen TVs, things, major large furniture. So again, all these things you could decide whether you want to keep or show, but increasingly you're going to want to be able to map subsystems on top of them at the end of the day. So to not only provide status, a cool visual look, which is integrated with irrigation and security if you like, but so cool visual status, but as Jeff said, you can actually control it via touch. And on UIX mode, you'll have the ability to control it with these options with the remote. So again, I think it's a cool thing. We used to have a feature called Views that did something similar, but you had to manually build it. And good luck to you if you were able to do it to scale. But again, we made this very easy, cool, better looking, and more functional, we believe.
Yeah, and there's a couple more questions. How are we linking zones to that LiDAR? That's done. It's config based. Once it's sucked in, we have the ability to do that within the configurator.
All right, moving on. So the next section, we're going to cover some of the updates we made to the configurator itself, easing some things. So first thing we added was something called action events. Now these live in the event mapper, and what they are is they're stateful notifications. Stateful means while something is active, so they're based upon a condition, right? So for instance, one of the ones that we talk about a lot is the garage door. So while the garage door, if you're like me, you leave that thing open all the time. So the condition is the garage door is open, and then you can see what the prompts are. So garage door open, and then the duration, how long has it been open, and if it passes that, then we will send a push notification to mobile phones to say, hey, your garage door is open. But not only that, we have this thing called a user action prompt, right? So the push notification will have a way to close the door without even opening the app. So you should do it right from the push notification if it's set up that way. And that's adding these action events is a great way to do certain things like that, for instance, for your clients. So you can get notifications based upon a condition that's happening now, which is what we call a stateful notification. And then you can have one action if you would like to do something about that, or not. Just tell me that there's something going on. So that's how this is done, and it's I think a very cool thing to do for those options like you've seen. But yeah, the garage door is the most prevalent one I can think of, but there's a whole bunch more. But next thing we added was a couple options, two options for the HR40. One is the source select option. So you can have that power button be a toggle or not, and that's where that button is, option is under behavior. But also the backlight override. So basically the keypad, the hard button backlighting generically turns on when a zone is on. But if you want that to turn on like the HR10 and 30 and 2 and 200 all the time, whenever the remote was woken up, you can do that by checking that backlight override box. The next thing is notification center. So this again is by the mobile device. If you go to interface devices, the mobile devices, each mobile device will have a notification center, and then you can enable these things like the action events. This is how it knows to send these action events to specific devices, is by the checkbox. And that's where the, like we mentioned in voice, where it knows to send the timer alerts to certain devices based upon that checkbox. The next thing, and this came from the dealer base, from our native forum, and we implemented this. This is a setting the source icon, right? Before, this was done at the zone controller. So you have a zone controller, you add a source, and then you set the source's icon, right? But now the icon for their source is set at the source. And that makes it easy. If you're using that source in multiple zone controllers, you don't have to change it, but you can if you wanted to with the custom icon checkbox to override it. To me, this makes sense. It was easier to deploy a source across multiple zone controllers. So that's there for you guys. Next is, now this was a request probably for about 10 or 15 years, but event map groups. Now you can. So you could just add your event map group, and from there you can add your event maps. You can now, for systems that aren't in 8.9 yet, you could create these and move event maps into the proper or desired group folders. So those are the configuration updates that we have made for you guys in this round. Any questions on any of that?
There's one, if I open notifications, it performs the action. Is there a way to just open the notification without performing the action? So with every notification you get, if it is has an action attached to it, there's two options. One is acknowledge, which you can just say, okay, I got it, and you could leave it for other devices. Again, these are stateful. So once the condition changes, either by an overt action by one of you guys or your end user, or the condition itself changes environmentally or what have you, all the notifications will disappear on all those devices. So when you get one of these action events, you could just hit acknowledge, or you can hit the button to actually, invoke the action that is set up for it. So that's the options there.
Yeah, just remind me, one of the action events that I actually use is that ties into indoor air quality. So when my indoor air quality is bad, I have it throw the message, and I could choose to turn on the cycle fan or not. So there's a couple thought processes on how that works. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, if you have devices set up with timers and the timer's notification is set for multiple devices, yes, all the devices will get the notification that the timer has expired. So that's how that works. It's whatever notifications you're subscribed to, that device will receive those stateful notifications. Again, once you dismiss it, it'll disappear off of other people's devices.
Question about the processor required for these. So everything that we've talked about so far is applicable to SC100, 300, again, which you'll hear about soon, 150 and 350. I think SC 2 and 10, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the G1, there's limited space on that thing, as you guys recall, in 8.8. You may have had to factory default it and then install 8.8 on there. It should be fine for 8.9, but again, there's limited space on there. So depending on the size of an installation and what you have on there, it's probably tight, but definitely SC2 and 10 100, 300, 150, 350, as Larry will get to.
Yes. All right. I think that's about it. Do you see any others, Jeff?
No, just the comment from PDM Automation, extensive growth from 8.7 to 8.9. There has been a ton of enhancements, fixes, changes, overhauls. I told you guys this is a huge OS update. So was 8.8, right? So you can expect us to. It's nice to see the dealers acknowledge that there's a lot of work that goes into these builds, and although there's a lot of features that you guys are asking for, slowly but surely they're getting in. So agreed on that. Nice job to the software team.
All right. Well, the next section we're going to go over is one of my favorite sections. It's drivers. Of course, whenever we do core module releases, we always have an update for the drivers present for our own native drivers. And the kind of the mantra for drivers is we want to take care of a couple of the most prevalent ones for each of the categories, and then post that. We got a lot of third-party developers and other manufacturers that would like to do that too. So that's kind of how we balance it out. So the first one that we did and is available now is the ELK E27 security panel. So this one, this is in this release now. It does support auto discovery, the arm disarm statuses, the zone bypassing, multiple partitions, right? But also the outputs, so you can trigger outputs on the thing as well, like relays. Next is Phillips Hue. So Phillips Hue had a updated API, and we wanted to make sure we captured and updated the driver to take advantage of that. One of the things that the original Phillips Hue driver did was it polled every 15 minutes to find out what lights were on and where they were at. We got questions a lot about that, but it's just the way that their API worked at the time. This new API gives us unsolicited feedback to know when devices are on and what state they're on. So we don't have to poll every 15 minutes. We know faster. Now they do have they did depreciate their older hubs. So we can't update the older hubs to the firmware. So we have a new this new device, a new driver is a communication device, and then what it'll do is it'll find the hubs and ask the hub if it's newer than a certain firmware or not, and then it'll add the right driver, since there's two embedded, an old one, which is the current one, and the new one, which is in 8.9. So it'll add the right one per the hub that it finds. A couple of things we also did was we added the motion detector, and we support the button presses on the Hue native keypads. So we added that as well. I think it's a good update. Next is Sonos V2. They've updated their API. They've updated it for adding recently played, playlists, and a search function, which is depends on the service, and you have to select the service that you wish. We also updated, when we heard you guys a lot and clear about the configuration updates and easiness that you like, so we added those things as well. This is coming soon. We still have to get through the certification process, so it'll likely be a few weeks after the release, but we are definitely working on this. Just to note that this only applies to S2 Sonos devices. This also does use the updated media UI to have the same look as our autonomic driver. Next, our own native Apple TV integration, right? So we did this using the supported HomeKit integration, and likely that means that we are iOS or tvOS 18 compatible, so that is good. With the supported HomeKit integration, we also got Siri from the HR40 is how we implemented it. And of course, with all our pre-built, with all our internal drivers, they come with a pre-built UI. So that is their native.
Important to note that the Siri is just when you're on the Apple TV source. Right. That's when the remote, and as I said earlier, if you press and hold in that source, you're talking to Siri. If you have a nice voice, if you press and release, you're talking to nice voice. So you get the best of both worlds with your thumb.
The next one we did is our a native Roku app. So this is for the streaming players. It does support auto discover, auto configure. It has the pre-built UI, but one thing that Roku gives us in their API that HomeKit, the supported API, does not is direct access to these services, right? So because of that, we can add, for instance, Netflix as a service to a zone, and it'll pop up in that favorites list. And you can do things based upon that. So the direct access is nice. Even though with Siri you can invoke the access directly using with Apple TV using Siri. So UB integration. So UB is another nice product, but we can integrate with that as well. The things we do with that is if you connected any Z-Wave or RF devices via lighting, climate, the native nice shades, sensors, or the buttons that they have, those will integrate into our platform. So we kind of use the UB as a extender per se. We added some more utility drivers. So as we talked about solar, the solar dashboard there, we added a Tesla to the mix. So the Tesla inverters are to the mix as well as with their battery backups. So that's there. We also added the Fronius inverters as well, increasing our solar options as much. We'll keep adding those as we go. Of course, there's driver updates as well. One of the ones that we did was Netgear. So for Netgear, we did the auto power link. So power link, as you guys know, allows the configurator to offer a reset button that feeds back into management cloud, right? It also does the naming for the if we know what it's power linked, then we use the name of the device and feed that into the utilities dashboard, so you know what you're turning on and off, right? So those are the two things that PowerLink gives you. And with Netgear, we automatically scan and we can tell, oh, that's an ITP, oh, that's a camera, oh, that's an extender. So we automatically set the power links for you to make it quicker and easier. Just to note that Netgear has also completed the nice Wi-Fi profile. So if you are using Netgear access points and you use the nice Wi-Fi profile, that will increase the battery life on the HR40. HEOS, we did the device failover. So basically how HEOS works is the controller talks to one HEOS device. That one device will talk to other devices. If that one device goes offline, resets, reboots, or whatever, we can't get to it, there's a failover device that we will talk to try to increase and gain communication to the HEOS system. Clipsal made some changes. And how their XML works. So we made those changes to keep up with Clipsal. But we also added new dimmers and dolly support as well. So we got that. Coolmaster, we added multi-line support for them. And Pentair, we did multiple heater types. So if you had a Pentair system that was you weren't getting the heat commands, it was probably due to this. All right. So any questions when it comes to drivers?
Yeah, there's a few of them here. All right. Another question on the new pre-baked interface for the Apple TV and Roku drivers. Do the dealers have the option to edit that UI, add buttons to it, or remove buttons?
I believe it is a baked UI, so we do not. It's not a custom page like some UIs.
Correct. It's a little bit different where it's a locked architecture there.
All right. Next is we'll kick it over to Tom for the management cloud update that goes along with this 8.9 release.
All right, Management Cloud 1611 actually was released last week. If you didn't get it, go grab it. It supports some of the things like nice voice licensing and has a bunch of fixes in there. But it also includes ratings for the marketplace. As you guys know, what was requested long ago is the drivers for our universe are spread all over the internet. So we created the marketplace as a convenient way to pull it all together. and index it so you can find all this stuff in index search. But one thing that was missing was, how do I differentiate drivers from vendors? Of course, you can, know by the vendor who you're dealing with in general sense of how they treat you and your customers. But so we've added a rating system there so you can get in there and rate your favorites and maybe help out a fellow installer and make a choice. So that's in there now. Please use it. We'll be continue to flesh out the marketplace. Larry spends a lot of time bringing these partners up to speed, and we use the marketplace to highlight what they're doing, and we're going to continue to build on that to promote our partners as much as possible. One other item is location notes. The notes section in every location. This could be used to calculate whatever you're doing. What we're doing now, what we will continue to do going forward, is to automatically populate these notes with tasks that you're doing. The latest one is OTA updates. So whenever you do an OTA update, it'll automatically log that into the location notes. It does a calculation on it to how long did it take, and all these things are automatically calculated. The goal there is with these location notes is to be able to run a report, which is something we're going to be revealing next year. So you can run a report and see what did my guys do on this particular location for a month, which would help with maintenance contracts and the like. The other item is power filter. Larry talked about that earlier. If you set up a power link in configurator and viewer, that information is pushed to Management Cloud, so you have power controls in Management Cloud. So anything that's power linked, you can go in there and you can power cycle or turn on or off a device for troubleshooting, especially if you see that there's trouble. So this is working. It's been working for about a year now. Again, the goal is to add more and more features into Management Cloud, and we're working towards a mobile version of this platform, so all the information you need about an end user and their system, you can access it, including launching into viewer and things like that. So that's something that's coming into next year, but we're adding some of the functionality to do something about what happens at an end user site with power link filtering. So I think that was it. But again, a number of bug fixes in the .11 release. So if you haven't already, it's out for about a week. So go up and get it. Make sure you're running it. Some of the 8.9 features I said will require it, including accessing that cool solar visual that Larry showed, and a number of the configurator updates and viewer updates. So it's just generally better to have the latest and greatest on your system, and it's free, so go get it.
All right. Next, we're going to talk about some hardware updates, and we're getting close to the time here. And we want to leave a little bit of time at the end for some open questions. So we'll get into some hardware updates. So the first one is the HR40 button. So we've redesigned the button. We've changed the shape. We changed the material. This new material gives a better, improved tactile click, right? So you feel that the button has been clicked when you press it. You can see this, that's why it's zoomed up really big, is you can see the shape difference. Now what this also does is prevents the button dislodging, if you guys have ever had that happen. So that shape will fix that issue. Another thing that we did with the HR40 is we've changed the base slightly. So it looks the same, but it feels different. We've increased the weight and increased the magnetic pull. So the remote sits better, sits flush, and then the base is weighted so it pulls away much better. So that is changed, and then the next production rev will take those changes. Next is the controllers. So due to sustaining and chipset changes, we had to update the controllers, and we did, and the new names are the SC150 and the SC350. Now these, you can also see we changed the badging on the controllers. As you can see, what was changed was the main CPU chip in both. Well, because we updated the main chip, we're able to add H.265 video decoding in both of these. We also updated the power handling on the USB in the SC150. When we made the original SC100, we weren't using the USB for powering drives. We didn't have the surveillance feature yet, so we upgraded the power in that as well. And just to note, there's other. It's not just the I/O differences on the SC 150 and 300, just like it wasn't on the 100 and 300. Those are a lot of differences in how the memory works and even how much memory is available. So larger systems, you should always gravitate towards the larger controller, I/O aside. Next is the touch panels. ITP becomes the ITP2. Look is exactly the same. There's been no characteristic changes at all. The only change was the chipset. Since it's the same family, the same chip that runs the controllers runs the ITPs. So we changed that as well. And that also means that the ITP2s will now decode H.265 video. Video doorbell. This was shown at CEDIA, and it also goes on pre-order later on this month. So this is coming out. This is our new doorbell that is coming. It is surface mount only. It is less than 1 inch depth. It has a relay output. Also has two options. Basically, it can be PoE, just like the old one was. You can power that same model with 12 volts DC, and it'll be Wi-Fi as well. Now, there is another version, which is the 2-wire version. This version comes with two pieces, the door station, like you see, and another piece that goes inside the house. So that piece takes PoE in and wires to 2 wires out. And the door station has just 2-wire connection, and that's it. We did this instead of offering a 2-wire conversion kit, so you didn't have to hog a huge hole in a wall on the outside of the house and shove the receiver in that hole. We made it so the doorbell has the 2-wire connection, so it basically has the other side of that transmitter receiver combo inside of it. So we did that. So those are the two SKUs that are coming out. Again, going on pre-order this month. Next is the new toolless architectural speakers. These come, and these were shown at CEDIA for those of you who were there. These are toolless, which is great, but they also come in 3 series. So a standard, good, better, best series technology. These are going on pre-order this month as well. All right, well, that leaves us about 15 minutes to do any questions that you guys might have. So I'll kick it to you, Jeff, if you want to read off some questions.
Yeah, we've got a couple going back from, the last section. Mike was asking, why is the Wi-Fi profile necessary? What results can we expect when not using Netgear access point, systems to avoid? No, there's really nothing to avoid. It's basically that we had the option with Netgear to basically think of it as an optimization profile, right? We have the option to do that the same way we have profiles for port specific, if it's Dante, if it's VIP.
That profile is specific to the Netgear hardware. So, they have our hardware in their labs, and they looked at it, it's like, well, we could build an algorithm for this. If that algorithm is specific to their hardware, so we can't do that with everybody. And, obviously, that they offered to do that for us, where other access control manufacturers are not. So that's why we have it for Netgear. It's basically they designed it and built it for us using our hardware to test it.
Another question, are we still running core module updates twice as a best practice?
The running twice was the restore, not a core module. So core module only needs to get updated once, OTA or otherwise. It's restoring twice, and the reason why that is because when you're restoring, we're adding the devices in, but sometimes it's in an order that doesn't quite fit. So if we add something before the event maps, and then it doesn't know what's there. So it's just when you're restoring, always do it twice. Core module updates, you could do it once. It's supposed to do it once.
Next question for Tom there. Can we have a prompt to save a backup when we perform an OTA update?
Yeah, so the OTA, what we're going to be doing into next year is cloud backups. So we could prompt you in this case, but you still have to go into configurator. So the goal there is to make it an option that you want to do a cloud backup now or before the update, and it would save it to the cloud, as well as being able to schedule backups as well. So The cool thing about backing up to the cloud, obviously your whole team has access to all the backups. They could do a restore, but we're working on a smart restore. So if you have, config backup, which they all will be, we know what core version is associated with that. We'll store the core versions, all the versions up there. And then if you wanted to do a full backup or full restore, you could do that with just your config file. So it saves time and space and the convenience of automatically backing up, or you can bypass it like you do on the executable action.
Next question. With more uses of SC controllers for UI and cameras, are we increasing the number of SC controllers that could be on a system? In my 12 years here, I don't think I've ever hit a cap.
Well, this is another difference between the SC 100, 150, 300, 350. The 100, correct, you can have 4 extenders, giving you 5 total controller on a system. But the SC 300, 350, they can do up to 16, giving us 17 controller network. I think that's pretty wide, but if you need more than that, I'd love to hear about that system that you're running.
Yeah, I've never been above the 16, 17 cap.
Same.
Yeah. So no, there's no plans, but Michael, we can discuss if there's a specific need. Multiple colors for the new doorbell. So at launch, no, we're just going to be offered in black.
Yeah. Now, we offered 3 colors in the last doorbell, and 75% of all sales were always black. So it's hard to rationalize the MOQs, but we can certainly do that down the road. But initial launch will be black only, based on our old sales.
Does the pricing change for the new controllers?
I can answer this.
Larry?
Yes. It went up 5% for the new controllers.
Will we be able to run more cameras on a single controller now with new chip, more per license? I'm assuming we're talking about the MVR features. That's not something that is on the horizon. Kind of staying as it is for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Tom, this is actually a good one. Management Cloud, will it ever retain devices when a system goes down? Was surprised to try to investigate an offline system and location completely empty. Doesn't even show devices offline.
Yeah, so devices, when they go offline, we do retain those. I think in this case is if the controller goes down. So yeah, we're working on last connection and the status at last connection. So that'll be something you'll see in the next few months. So that'll be there shortly.
All right. For solar, Larry, you want to EDS update?
Yeah, that one.
Imagine it's coming.
Yeah, EDS was updated. I think we did this like 6 months ago, so that's current now. And I actually did, Darren, reach out to the SunSync developer and Victron developer and told them this, that they can update that, but they never did.
So again, guys, this just a quick recap on some things. This recordings and everything will be posted and will be available for you guys to view at your leisure sooner or later. Both a nice university, and I imagine that we'll have it somewhere in Management Cloud as well.
Yep.
Pre-orders, the door station in usually on a new product launch, the first batch we get goes in or goes out of stock quickly. So it's more important to get those pre-orders in. I'm sure your respective RSMs or NAMs, if you're international, will be sending out information on both the speakers as well as the door stations on the pre-order. Look for the first edition of 8.9 to hit next week. And am I missing anything, boys?
Someone asked about IR outputs on the new controllers. Yeah, the only change is on the inside of the controller, so the outside is exactly the same inputs, same outputs. So that one is good. And I think that is all right. That's it.
A question about voice demo. Oh. So there is a demo in Configurator V2. You'll be able to just enable a 60-day demo for voice. As we kind of let off about the voice, it will not be in the 8.9 release next week. There's some things we're still dialing in, including that wake word that Darren asked about. So that'll come out before the end of the year. We're fine-tuning that. But when it's there, you'll be able to run a 60-day trial. And you'll love it, and you'll order it right away.
Agreed.
All right. It is time.
Yep. Thank you for your time today. Devin, I saw the question just came in. I'll get your RTS in touch with you on that one. But again, thanks for carving out some time and sitting with us and talking about 8.9 and what's new and exciting. Have a good rest of the week.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Bye.